DMZ interface. Okay. All right, from there. I can go into the device and just go into the config tab and change the host name and display name, which per the lab is FW-1. Okay, that runs the host name command there, or you can go into the command line and run the host name command. Guess what? Same result. Questions on that? Okay, moving on. If I do a show run, I can see that Ethernet 00 is in VLAN 2. VLAN 2 is on the outside, it's the outside interface. All the other interfaces, because they don't have this switch port access command, all right, they are defaulted to VLAN 1, which is fine. VLAN 1 has this IP address. All right, that does not match up with what's in the lab. So let's go ahead and we also need to make a third VLAN for our DMZ. So int VLAN 3. All right, and we're going to name it DMZ. That's when we get our error. That's when we have to do the no forward command on this VLAN interface. And we're going to not forward to VLAN 1, which is the inside. So the command, no forward VLAN 1. Everybody see that? No space, forward space, VLAN space 1 on VLAN 3 after you do the name if command. Interface. No forward interface VLAN. Right back. Okay. Now we also need to set the go back and set the name interface to DMZ because it didn't take it the first time, so we got that error. And it sets the security level to 0 by default. Since the DMZ falls in between the inside and the outside interface, from a zoning perspective, we need to set it somewhere in the middle. As we all agreed that we'll set the security level to 50. It's right smack in between 0 and 100. So, command, sec dash level, or security dash level, 50. Everybody with me? Cool. All right. I always go back and I do a show run to make sure that I'm kind of making everything happen. All right. So I need to put Ethernet 02 into VLAN 3. So int E0/2 and command switch port access VLAN 3. Switch port access VLAN 3. Show run. So now my physical interfaces are all correct. All right? My physical interfaces are all correct per this diagram. All right, so now let me set my virtual interfaces, my VLANs, so they have the right IP address. So VLAN 1 is not in 192.168.1.1. It's supposed to be 10.0.0.1. Everybody agree for the diagram? So go into interface, VLAN 1, IP add 10.0.0.1, class C. IP add 10.0.0.1 space 255.255.255.0. It's going to give me an error. It's going to give me DHCP errors that I got to fix. Okay? All right. So I've got to take all those DHCP commands out before I can apply that IP address. Because I've got to do a show run now. You can see on VLAN 1, it still has that same IP. So I've got to take these DHCP commands out. Alright? I go back to global configuration mode by typing exit. And to take a command out of the configuration, I have to preempt that command with none. So I'm going to take out the DHCP address 192.168.1.5-192.168.1.35 inside. Okay? I can type all that out, or I can be lazy. Copy it. Type no. Okay, didn't copy. Click copy. Right click paste. Or I could just simply type it all out if I wanted to. Alright, check that. I can go back and I keep doing the show and run. Okay, so that command's out. And I still got to take out these other two DHCP commands as well. Type in no, DHCPD, auto-config, outside. I'm just doing tab completes. And enter. And the thing with the DHCPD enable inside. Again, start with no, DHCPD. Enable inside. And hit enter. Go back to the show run. They're all gone. Now I can go back into interface VLAN 1 and put my IP address on that interface. Everybody with me so far? Hit VLAN 1, IP add 10.0.0.1, class C. And it likes it now. Cool? Got a couple more things to clean up. Okay. We've got to put the IP address on VLAN 2 and on VLAN 3. And we've got to take that IP address DHCP out of VLAN 2. Okay? So, let's go into VLAN 2. So, interface VLAN 2. And let's take that DHCP command out. No IP add DHCP. That's just a thing that's saying it cleared the binding. Now let's add the correct IP address. IP add for the diagram 204.184.21.30/30. Okay? Everybody with me? I'm adding the IP address to the VLAN interface for the outside interface. Alright? Now we need to add the IP address of the DMZ. Now, here's where it gets tricky. On the diagram, there are two addresses there. This is where it gets confused. There's the public IP, 134.68.123.0/26. And there's an RFC 1918 address of 192.168.0.0/26. Those two networks. Now, if you notice on the chart, the different servers, web, email, FTP, DNS, their local IP is in that 192.168 scope. That's the physical address that is on the NIC of those servers. Hence, the IP address of the DMZ interface of the ASA, a la VLAN 3 that we created, is going to be A, 134.68.123.1, or B, 192.168.0.1/26. Which one is it, guys? A? It's the public IP address.
Wait, what was the question?
So if I have those private IP addresses on the servers, on the NIC, so I go into Windows config or if config if it's a Linux box, and I see that the IP address on the physical NIC is 192.168.0.25 for my mail server. Alright? And I do a route, and I see the default gateway is set to 192.168.0.1. What's the IP address of VLAN 3 on this ASA? The physical address. Is it A, 134.68.123.1, or B, 192.168.0.1? It's B. It's B. Now, that 134 addresses are going to come into play when we set up NAT, Network Address Translation. Network Address Translation. So the outside world is going to see our mail server, 192.168.0.25, as 134.68.123.25. Why? Because RFC 1918 private addresses are not what? What can we not do with them? They cannot be routed where? On the internet. On the internet. So we've got to translate those things using NAT, which we'll get to later. Alright? But for now, let's put the right IP address on this ASA's VLAN 3. So int VLAN 3, IP add.
Put VLAN 2.
Put
Thank you so much. That would have been embarrassing. So 192.168. 0.1. Whoops. I have to put the right command in there. IP add 192.168.0.1. And what is a 26-bit subnet mask?
192? Oh, wait.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Alright, that all looks pretty copacetic. Alright, so I want you to digest that for lab 3. That's just the first couple of questions. We'll get to NAT, we'll get to working with the DMZ, and everything else a little bit later. We're going to have to work with what we call with objects. It's important to note that this particular firewall, if you look at the version, show ver. It is running version 8.4. 8.4. That means we're going to have to use service objects and network objects and things of that when we get into the ACLs and into the NAT statements. It can be kind of tricky. Alright? So, what I want you guys to do between now and pick the right day here, next Monday, is work on the addressing and the routing of your ISP router, R1, and your firewall. Here's a hint. You're gonna need to put only one route statement on your firewall because it's the end of your network. A default route. Guess what? It's similar to what you did with your default route in lab 2. Simple, not exact, similar. All right. And on the routers, on R1, okay, you're going to have to put a couple of static routes and a default route that points to the ISP. Static routes will point to firewall 1. and address it and everything else. Alright? And on your ISP, same story. Couple of static routes that point towards the network, and one default route that would point to the rest of the internet. Alright? But this time, again, we're using static routing statements, not any type of dynamic routing protocol. Alright? Also in the lab, we get towards 12. Okay? Since we're using this in packet tracer, we're not using ASDM. I gave you a link right there, basically that walks you through how to set up the VPN. Okay, it tells you how to set up your transform set, your crypto, IAC, all that stuff. If you don't get to, don't worry about getting that right now. We'll go over that in a week or so. When we get to chapter 9, actually in chapter 8 and in chapter 9. Okay, so it makes a little more sense. We haven't covered that yet. Alright? But I want to give you at least a little bit of a head start here on how to set up this ASA beforehand. Alright. It's always a wonderful idea to save your work, so you don't have to go back and fix everything. So I didn't do anything on the ISP router. I really didn't do anything on R1. Write that to memory. Close that out. File.
WRMM.
Save as.
MEM.
Yeah, write mem. WR space mem. Just the same thing as you do on a router. All right. Or you can do copy run start as well. It does the same thing. And I'm just gonna name this lab 3. CIS 467. Stick it to my desktop. Save it. There, done. Okay. We will pick up there Monday-ish. Monday we'll start going over